thing about Robert, he's genuine and he's approachable. You see people that, mingle because the book says to be respected and be a leader, you're supposed to mingle. He does that naturally. And when people's not genuine, you see through that. And he's always been that way.
For a man who's had the success in business, as well as the success with raising his family, he could be a whole lot less humble than he is, and no one would ever be critical.
The roots of the company started back in 1923, a very small cartage-type company. In 1951, Robert's father was a local lawyer in Fort Smith, and one of the clients was these three gentlemen that owned a trucking company, and they were getting a little bit older and decided, we better find somebody to buy this company. The more he looked at it, he thought, gee, I might want to do this, and that's what he did. He ultimately bought the company. Robert was about 11 years old when that happened.
The trucking industry was deregulated in 1980, and that ended up being a very tumultuous time, for the industry. Frankly, ABF would not have survived deregulation had it not been for Robert Young. Of the top 50 carriers that were in business prior to deregulation, again in 1980, there's only one left that survived it, and is still operating under the same name that it was operating under, and that's ABF Freight System. Robert somewhat stepped on the accelerator, and we started expanding. We were opening a new freight facility every 8 days. It ended up being a multi-billion-dollar company, and Robert rode point, on causing all that to take place. He recognized one person cannot do everything, can't do it all, but they can sure make a difference.
You don't get respect without respecting. I have been around with Robert, with many of the people that would be considered his employees. He doesn't treat them as employees, he treats them as equals.
In any business, you can kind of get in the weeds pretty heavy. Robert presents such a great big picture vision of things that sometimes when you're down in the weeds, he's up above, kind of can see the forest a little further. That's really the wisdom that he provides.
We were traveling and we got somewhere, and a guy comes up and helps us with our bags and grabs our bags and goes and puts them in the car and whatever. And I get in the car, and Robert looked at me and he said, "Did you tip that guy?" I said, "Oh, no." He said, "Well, why not?" He said, he's not doing that just for fun. He said, he's trying to make a living. He said, "Go tip him." And I'll tell you, it was a lesson that stuck with me, and I've never forgotten it, and I always tip somebody, and I always think of Robert every time I do. Certainly, Fort Smith's not a big city, but working at ABF, working at ArcBest is one of the big things around here.
When you would write a check here in Fort Smith, and they found out you worked for ABF, no ID was necessary.
We have the United States Marshals Museum, which is going to be built, and Robert and his wife Mary have been leaders in the task of bringing that forward. Here's a man who has dedicated his life to the business, his family, his community, at a time when he should be able to just sit back and relax. He continues to use his ability to try and advance his community by working to advance this museum.
I would say give his money and his wisdom is really where he's been so instrumental for the community, is the wisdom he imparts.
I've considered Robert one of my two best friends for over 35 years. Robert has been there for me on several occasions in my life when I was down for whatever reason. Helped me through the death of a brother, helped me through the death of my parents. The fact that I have someone of Robert's stature that I can confide in, and it's such a comfort to know that you have that kind of a friend as an ace in the hole.